I've got one more.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin our road and bridge meeting. We've got several items on the agenda. And it looks like we're going to start first with the petition for vacation.
Oh.
David, will you go through that?
Yes, that was they were vacating the lots, units and common areas within Idaho Falls storage condos plat. And let's see, there were no utility easements will be vacated with this, so.
Okay,
There's 1.6, which covers the construction on 50 road.
Yeah, there were no roadways, no easements, just a plat.
is there any concern with it then?
I think it covers that. I'd make a motion that we accept the findings on the vacation.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Is there a
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, you want to go?
I see Gabe Wheeler on there.
Oh,
You may want to give them a copy of it.
Kate, you have any questions before we move on?
You're muted.
Looks like you're muted if you're trying to speak. Hearing no comment. Oh,
Oh, that's Gabe again.
hearing no comment, I guess we'll go ahead and move on then.
I can get her a copy of it after it's recorded.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll go next to the findings from our planning and zoning administrative.
Yes, so Michelle Hagan, this is a finding of fact for the rezone from the Idaho Transportation Department and represented by Horrocks Engineering. Went to Planning and Zoning Commission on December 6th, 2023, and then it was for the county commissioners on January 10th, 2024. The recommendation is for approval, or the decision is to approve the rezone from RA-1 to C2 with the conditions that are on page 5, continuing on to page 6. And I can go into more info if you would like.
I read through it, I thought it looked okay to me. Is there any
Very standard.
comment? Yeah, you guys do a great job of writing these. And sort of reflected my thoughts.
I'll make a motion, we accept that. Findings of fact. Property owned by Idaho Transportation. On 2015. Second motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. You guys really do a great job of getting these written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lance, where do we go next? I see you've got 2 or 3 other.
Let's go to the road agreement with Go West Timber Management first.
Okay,
So this is a logging operation that has an agreement on Long Gulch Road to do some logging. They did it last year. They want to get back in this year and continue their logging process. They only have this year to finish the parcel. It allows him to plow Long Gulch Road.
Where's Long Gulch?
So it's along the river road, it's past the subdivisions, coming from the dam back towards Fall Creek. It's about halfway between the dam and Fall Creek. Yeah, it goes up to the camp.
Okay. That's Road, right?
But it's Long Gulch Road.
And it's a county road.
It is a county road. Yes, it's on the Schedule A agreement.
They are agreeing to repair them.
Yes, that's what this agreement does. If they destroy it, we get it inspected, we get to tell them what's the damage and they agree to fix it. It does not allow him to plow River Road, just Long Gulch Road.
So, and that's on the section of the plow.
So River Road, we plow up through where Long Gulch is. And so we take care of River Road, but he'll plow Long Gulch Road above there. And this agreement goes through March 29th of this year.
They're thinking it's an early spring. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, because that, that road, it's got a lot of switchbacks.
it's approximately 2 miles of that road. So
It's great winter hunting range. Up there, those short trees and stuff.
I actually haven't been up that road, so I don't know. But
You got any concerns?
No. No, they're
Okay,
doing a good service.
next is signing the MOU with the state to receive the money from the Strategic Initiatives Grant process. This paperwork basically says that we're gonna do what our application said. And we'll get the $8.1 million. They do have Roger Christensen as the chairman, because this was written back
that's
last
fine.
year, so.
Have him sign.
I did not include the whole packet because their whole packet included all of ours, which is 111 pages.
Did they give us a time frame to have the funds?
No, they haven't given us a time frame, and they need this back before I'm sure that they'll give us
They'll
a
give us
time frame.
anything?
Good job getting that. Sure helps.
Can that start this year?
If we can possibly do it, we'll start it this year. We've got to acquire the right of way. We've already got the right of way negotiator on
When
board.
we start the bridge or get that out of the way?
That's I mean, the goal is to start all of it, but the
Right.
bridge is certainly a big part of that, and I don't know whether we can do it. We may not be able to do it before water comes in.
That's sure.
So, and with Sand Creek Barn being part of the flood control channel, it probably will have to be fall before that bridge can be taken out, so.
Be nice to get it done this year if we could. We got to move these around so we can keep him having to travel a long ways to his house.
That's the goal. The other item, I sent you some draft language for a legal notice that was part of the compliance agreement schedule with DEQ. We have to advertise for the closure, post-closure plan, the operating plan, and the groundwater monitoring plan. Do you have any questions about that language? Is that okay with you?
I honestly didn't look at it.
I can't remember looking at it either. When did you send it to us?
I sent it Monday.
So we're in agreement with them on plans. They've got that resolved with the engineer.
We think we have the draft. This opens it up to public comment for 28 days. And so it's not a final thing until after the public comment.
But you're comfortable with the draft.
And we'll have to have copies of those draft plans here at the commissioner's office. We'll have to get a copy down where we are and a copy of the transfer station when we look at what those dates are. I don't have all of those here with me, so I would recommend that we probably look at advertise starting the 23rd of February, March 1st, and then March 8th is probably the good time frame for doing that, to give it advertised for 21 days. And we'll have it out for 28-day comments.
Okay. Looks good.
Then probably stick to get the bridge and stuff done during, be ready to roll.
Yeah, the next year.
Where are we on the Hammond Road?
They are still working on their cost proposal to put it out to bid.
Okay.
So I've got a follow-up call with them. Today, I think.
So that's ideal. Close that one off this year and then the other one off next year for you.
Great. 49th, the following.
I'll get this advertisement language to you, Kayla. And put those dates in there. And, I'll have you get it to the post register then. And then I'll get copies of these plans here for you guys to have in case anybody ever shows up to look at them.
What's our leachate doing? Still real slow?
I haven't talked to Blair in a week or so about that, but last time I talked to him, it'd come up 1 knot, which basically is 1 foot off.
Because with this rain shield, this is one of the payoff.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's still rain up there instead of snow.
yesterday we heard it was snowing up there, so. They still haven't finished all of the rain shield stuff that they need to do or to replacing the sandbags. And they sent an email out, hey, we'd like to come up there, and that was the day it snowed, so.
It's Marlo Meyer's son-in-law. And just said, how's Marlo doing? He said, well, they got her home right in time because it looked like the road was gonna close. Yeah, it's from the snow and blowing.
Yeah, she's had a tough go.
We did get the groundwater monitoring report for roads well,
So that,
and I sent that on to Scott to have him send it to their attorney. There was no concerns with that. It looked pretty clean.
Yeah, look good.
It's a lot of money to keep doing it quarterly. But
Yeah.
it's upwards of $20,000 a year.
That's an expensive hole in the ground up there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it'd be more expensive when it's full.
yeah.
Ongoing forever.
So division rights.
That is
Okay,
not something I put on there,
So
so.
that is, we had the request last spring for
By Roadhouse.
to sell, yeah, division rights, next to Roadhouse. We talked about it a little bit then, didn't come to a firm conclusion.
I think the discussion we had then was around what the minimum price would be. And you did a little bit of research and found out the value of those was about 40,000.
Yeah, they're generally anywhere from about 30 to 60,000. So I think we had talked about starting the bid at 40
or 50,
or 50, yeah.
right in between, and then, then give everybody that's
And then we're
adjacent.
just gonna notify the adjacent property owners, which we had a list, I still have a list of, we can send that over.
There's 6 division rights.
Yeah,
So we're not, are we required to publish this though, or just notify adjacent landowners?
That I don't know for the sale.
probably have to ask legal, cause the only people who could utilize them are the adjacent landowners.
Cause there's no access to a county road through those 2 parcels. I mean, the one of them we use
So-
for the access into the gravel pit, but
But they would have to provide that if they got the division right and developed.
Yeah, so
So,
and that's would be difficult, especially for that upper lot is how do you get access to a county road?
Well, we were gonna publish them so that adjacent property owners could buy them and utilize them, which do have frontage was
Yeah.
the goal there, but we'll have to still advertise that in the paper.
I'd be fine with the 50. I think you
I would too.
move it up a little, and then, of course, they can bid, they submit bids, so there's what, 4 eligible. Well, it depends on which division, right? Well, they basically be able to bid against each other.
Well, and another concern I had is, does this start a precedence? You know, that anybody out there could start selling their division rights.
We've done this. multiple
And
times.
we do have a policy, a transfer of division rights policy in place. I think it was signed by resolution by the commissioners. I can get you a copy of that, but people do sell their division rights now. Somebody can go approach their neighbor and say, hey, I want an additional division right. We transfer it and buy it. And then there's requirements that go along with that.
The difference here is because it's a county gravel pit and our county owned property, we have division rights.
Okay,
Normally, how long have we owned that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because normally if we buy a piece of property, the people we buy it from keep the division rights. You know, so I don't know of many other parcels that we have extra division rights on.
With the policy in place, I don't think it affects us at all. I think that covers us, so.
okay.
So does the policy, I haven't seen it, say that it can only be given
Only
the
to an adjacent property owner, and once it's transferred once, it can't be transferred again. So you can't sell it to this property owner and then them sell it to that property owner. It's like,
They can't be moved wherever they want.
yeah,
Okay.
So where do we need to go from here? This is an action item. Do
Yeah,
we need
I'd move that we give them the authority to publish it or
Okay.
do whatever.
yeah, I'll reach out to Scott, figure out what we need to do to move forward, and then
okay,
if we need to publish, I'll put the signing for publication on the agenda, so.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that gives you the information you need, Kayla. If anybody asks a question again.
And again, and again.
Mhm.
I
Kayla,
don't have anything else on the agenda. Just wanted to give you an update on, in fact, I have not heard a single thing
Speak up,
from them.
comments. You got the people on, I'm pretty sure they can't hear you after my experience.
we do have some public that's joined us online. Do you have a question or any comment that you wanted to make?
Is this Mike? You're muted. That's I'm sure the property owner that called the
Okay.
property owner.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, hear you really
Hey.
well, Mike.
I was just wondering what you're gonna do for maintenance on the High C Road.
Yeah, we talked about it, we talked about that early on, first up in the meeting. And about the road, and Lance said, yeah, it's a road full of pointy rocks. But he said they will look at, how did you phrase that?
We'll look at that in the schedule of what other roads we have to do. I mean, that,
Have you done a traffic count there?
we have not done a traffic count up there in quite a while.
Cause that's what we usually,
Yeah, no, right
have done on the priority of.
that is bumped up right up.
Yeah, we can do a traffic count on it when we get better weather in the spring. So right now would not be a good time to do it.
Okay,
That's good.
it's just the amount of traffic that's up there is in the last 3 or 4 years has tripled. With everybody, with the price of fuel, everybody's going up there to go camping and going and enjoying some wilderness instead of going to Island Park. And the fishermen going up and down there with their shuttles, they just tear the road to pieces. And we're trying to farm up there a little bit and hauling equipment back and forth. It just beats us to death. And we just like to know if we can get a little bit of maintenance up there and get that road smoothed out. I don't want it too smooth because in the traffic, people will go twice as fast as they're going now. But
They
the
do
best-
any. I mean, you get those outfitters up there coming roaring down through there.
Oh, they're bad. And the backcountry sheriffs I've talked to said they're gonna have to put up street lights on the narrow spots because of the traffic so bad. I used to come down there and you'd meet one other outfit, you'd kind of get off to the side, but now you come there and there's 6 people ahead of you and 6 people behind you. And you're all trying to get around the narrow spots. So if you can do anything, I would really appreciate it. And if I can help, let me know what I can help you.
Where's his farm?
Where's your farm at? Mike?
Ours is just past, if any of you know where the old Sonny Spalding place is.
Okay.
Roger knows.
We're just past it.
So our maintenance responsibilities pretty much end there at Sunny's.
Yes,
Place.
after there, it's a Forest Service.
Yeah,
But if I can get it smoothed out to there, at least I'm not beating myself to death to Sonny's. But if you
Get
can,
it there.
but it just needs some work. And I would hate to go up there and do the work myself. As I mentioned earlier to one of the county commissioners, I've got
That
a
was me.
copy of the original permit. And it says we have a right to maintain that road because my grandfather and the other farmers built the road. And if I go to maintain it, I'm gonna shut it off all summer because it'll, as old as I am, it'll take me that long to maintain it. And I don't want to do that. I would prefer you guys that know what you're doing, go up there. And if we could just get a little bit of help on the road, it would really be appreciative. I know Jerry would like it, Rusty would like it, which is in the old Lufkin place. All of us up there that are trying to do something would appreciate what you can do for us.
there's a catch-22 there because if we improve it, you will have even more traffic.
Well, I don't know if we'll have more traffic. We'll just have people going faster. So, and I don't know how you police that. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks to solve these problems. So if you can do something, I appreciate it. If you can't, you can't.
We've got our best engineers working on it.
Okay?
Thank you. We appreciate the input
So
and,
do what you can.
yep, they'll certainly work on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice to hear somebody respectfully ask instead of.
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad. I go up that road with my 4-wheeler. It's even hard to travel on a 4-wheeler. Yeah,
It's much better on a 4-wheeler than a vehicle.
I know.
So we were talking about Intermountain. You have not received anything back since the permit was sent to them.
I have not.
Okay. Okay, well, that's,
It's on them right now.
yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I think we talked about, the other things we were gonna talk about. Can I get a copy of what you're gonna send to them? What that paper on Clark Park 2?
Yeah. I'll forward you the email.
Is there anything from planning and zoning?
Oh, I don't have anything else.
Wade, would you come up and join us?
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining
Oh, no problem.
with us. What can you tell us from Iowa Falls?
Sure. I've got 3 things, and then if you have anything for me, I'm happy to take them. So, the first is, I was hoping to get a better report for you on the fire storage. I'm meeting with I mentioned this to Lance and Austin, I'm meeting with fire tomorrow. They're in the middle of labor negotiations, so that's been why I haven't had as good a conversation. But we're hoping that we'll be able to just get a waiver there and be done with that. But we just need to make sure we're following the IFC on that one. I just had a shot.
That's the difficult thing because of the separation and the size of the files. You know, we had that on the church farm road where we didn't separate them. You know, you remember the fire out there?
I don't,
Oh,
but
I do. I heard about it for years from Bill Craig. You know,
Oh, out there, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had all those extra storage. How, do you know how much closer we are to being back in our own?
I think he's made some progress, but there's still a lot of tires there.
Yeah, cause the volume, the like. if you're talking
20,000
something-
cubic.
Cubic feet,
Feet
and
of
so,
tires,
yeah, once you go
You
up
get to take
10
the
feet.
air out of the tires?
They're
So, just
mostly flat already.
So I was gonna ask you, Lance, the bid that we got for the fence originally, or the pricing, was that just to go around the tire area?
Yes,
Or was that, okay,
And it was because.
and that was because of the lava that it was so
Yeah.
expensive, right?
Yeah.
And issue that we're running into is, my perspective is there's a depression in the land and we're set back, so the need to screen isn't really there, but I don't know if fire is requiring, that's where we need to have clarity.
Well, yeah, the fence, I don't know if you need the side screening, but you know, you gotta probably separate those piles.
well, and if you separate the piles,
It's still the total.
it's still the total amount, and so I don't know that it
Well, and
changes anything.
it says a 6-foot fence, or basically another security measure that keeps people out of the area. That's the purpose of the fencing in the fire code.
And we already have a fence around that
So,
whole enclosure.
When I did talk to Scott a little bit this week again, and he said, well, we're looking at the 4-foot fence to see if we feel like that has the security we need. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind just asking them kind of where their final decision is, but.
Yeah, cause we understand that from the other side, you know, that's one of those standards that's really hard to give exceptions for.
Yeah,
You know, cause if we ask for one expected, and then we go and force somebody,
yeah, and if the fence is up to keep people out, then maybe that just solves. the
Yeah, it's
problem.
really gonna be their call to say, do they feel like we have an adequate security measure from the tires, or what do we need to do to make that happen? So.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we need to take from Larry on how we're doing, cause I know he said they had about a third of them out. You know, now that they got the trucks and they're calling them themselves. You know, cause the other option, which is not pleasant, is just quit taking tires till we catch up. If DEQ is gonna press us for it.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, as long as we're showing that we're making headway on them.
Yeah, and we've had the Idaho Tire Recycler, he's been able to take 3 loads in the last 2 weeks. But, yeah, there's still quite a few tires there.
Yeah, your own tire storage.
Well, thanks for checking.
Oh, no problem. And yeah, sorry that I was hoping to be able to give you a firm decision today, but I just, it's neither here nor there. So, we also, Austin was great. He sent me, since you talked about the meat packing plant, a lot of this is on our side. So, Austin was great to send me that, waste disposal permit. Well, I've talked.
You guys had it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Lance,
Lance did, yeah, sorry. Giving credit where credit was due.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and also just a fine specimen of a person. And then, so the other thing with that, so, yeah, so that was never really integrated in our permitting process. I talked to Carrie about that, our assistant director. That will now be integrated as part of our process. So whatever situation we ran into before, that won't be in terms of waste disposal for some type of operation like Intermountain.
Because, I mean, we're still a little puzzled by it, because Brian went out there and actually toured the plant with Lance. You know, and they've got the capability to dry that out to make it legal. You know, just from the spills and things like that, they weren't doing that. But even on the story that Channel 8 ran, you know, he grabbed some of that sludge, you know, and held it up to his nose. So it's hard to believe that that's where the smell is coming from, and if they have to store it a few days.
Yeah.
You can put a cover on it, so. It appears like most of the odor's coming through the sewer system.
Yeah, and I know Public Works went through and they were capping those. I can follow up with Chris on that, just to seal that. But then the smell does it still goes out, yeah, it goes out to the river, so it nonetheless, on the communication side, if there's more things as we get something like that, we'll try to be open and communicate with you. We'll have your permitting process, and then at least we have a check on the county, or at least they're checking with the county before they go into operation.
It took us all a little off guard. I mean, none of us were prepared for, that type of operation. There,
Yeah, and
I think on
we
both sides, we didn't
Yeah, I
realize
think we were
the implications.
Yeah. And then we've had a number of meetings on area of impact. I've talked with, so my, next to-dos were to reach out and talk to some of the cities throughout the state. I've talked with Nampa, Idaho. I have a phone call in, tomorrow with Garden City, about the main, issue that we're coming across is how to address impact fees. That's really where we keep kind of circling back on that area of impact. And Nampa actually had some really good insight that, they had a really interesting, they call them substitute impact fees that get imposed at the time that a property connects to the meter. And so that's when the impact fee is charged. And on the, so I thought that was an interesting solution. And then they have some interesting agreements with Canyon County. And that Canyon County actually establishes a limit to how far out they can connect, which I thought was kind of an interesting solution. So then it gives both the city and the county say on how much properties connect outside in their area of impact. So I want to see what Garden City is doing, and then we'll meet again. And then I think we're comfortable with it. And so I think we'll start moving with our agreement from.
Substitute connection fees, are they still subject to the same rules? Because that's always been on Hazer. We've got 8 years to spend that on the project.
Yeah.
And what we're finding on our reserves is it's hard to get those things ready, quick enough to.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for that one. Yeah,
How much have you spent out of the impact fees? Because they've been in for a couple of years now.
yeah, Chris told us in that meeting.
60,000, I think is what it
60,000.
was.
We haven't spent very much of our impact. We're waiting on, I know one element of ours is we don't have a capital improvement plan from parks that we have to have in place in 5 years, or else we lose all of parks impact fees. So they're working.
Where do they go if you've collected them and they lose them?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
You might want to find that out. Do they go back to the developer? Do they,
Yeah,
because that's, we walked through this 10 or 15 years ago, when the request for impact us to do impact fees started. And we haven't found a way, and I don't know if you can find a legal way to do it.
yeah.
I wonder though, with those substitute impact fees, if they're in a different fund altogether, because it kind of sounds like where their connection to the meter, it would be a different type fee
Yeah.
structure than necessarily an
And
impact fee.
then the question is, they have to be earmarked for specific projects.
Yeah, we don't really on the city side have a very good solution, or we don't have a solution quite yet. So we don't have a good solution. It's a complicated issue, and impact fees are kind of an anomaly for us here. I haven't worked heavily in it in my previous life. That and IFRA I haven't worked heavily in, but yeah, we're coming to a solution. I think when it comes to an agreement between us and the county, I think we're pretty comfortable. It's just this is the one little wrinkle that we're trying to figure out a positive solution that works for both sides.
Maybe that you're trying to figure out, but we're still, did you ever send that list of answers to the question that the council adopted to Austin?
Yeah,
We
so,
have the original one.
yeah, so the mayor has instructed me just to work through a solution with you guys, and the question. What's that?
No pressure.
Yeah. So she wanted to step more away from that and not be as involved just in the aspect of, she felt like similar to what you had, the commission had talked to me about, of just working on it out on the staff level and then just bringing the solution to the elected officials.
You know, the reason we wanted answers to those is for Austin to take a look and then he can evaluate the same way you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as we've met, I think we've ironed through a lot of the, or that's what we've been meeting about is the questions and the solutions to those. I just think with the impact fee stuff, if, you know, so you figure out from NAMPA, okay, what's the legal way to doing this? And in the agreement, we might have to put some language that describes how that money would be earmarked for certain projects and utilized for certain projects. I mean, we'd have to probably work out a process
Yeah,
within that.
Well, the difficult thing for that is earmarking for a project. There's, you know, cause the areas you're gonna collect that on, if you extend the services, you know, to when they annex and do it on the hookup. A lot of those projects, it would drive our dollars to go into those outside the city limits. And, you know, so you may collect $60,000 and there's $2 million road improvement that needs to happen. You know, then it puts us in a position of having to prioritize that, you know, compared to all the others we put in.
Yeah, I think that's all just stuff we'll have to look at as we meet and how that would all shape out to be, so.
and that's all I have, commissioners. I don't know if you have anything.
But we appreciate you two continuing to work on it and the progress that you're making.
I just wanted to talk about, and I emailed you about this yesterday, Wade, but I just thought this would be a good time to talk about it since you're already here.
Sure.
So we have this area. So this is 15th East, essentially between Highway 26 and Iona Road. So the city, you've got Intermountain Packing up here, which the city already has a water line running.
Can you point on the screen?
Yeah. Here.
When he does this,
So you got Intermountain Packing up here, that's Iona Road up at the top. So the city's water line, I believe, already, and sewer line is already running in here somewhere. I don't know exactly how far it goes. And then down here, you've got Yellowstone Highway, and I believe the city has utilities that come to this intersection here.
They have a water line that goes partway up 15th, I think, too.
And yeah, I don't know, maybe it does run up to here. So Anderson Business Development is part of the LID, so it's on City of Idaho Falls Sewer.
The first phase of it.
And then, yeah, then the rest of it is serviced by Falls Water and IBSD. So these people have come in and talked to me about developing this piece of property here. They had talked to the city about a year ago, I guess. And the city basically said, well, where all of this is salvage yards, we don't really have any interest in annexing this into city limits because we don't have anything to handle salvage yards, right? So they said the only thing we could do is basically annex all this property, but then it all comes non-conforming, you can't expand, you can't do anything with it. So they've come back to us, I guess there's an MOU, which I haven't seen, between Falls Water and the city of Idaho Falls, saying that Falls Water won't cross the road and service these west properties. So really my overarching question was, if the city truthfully doesn't have any interest in annexing any of these salvage yards because they don't want them in city limits, there's nothing they can do with them, right? And then this is already serviced by Falls Water. Why would we hold Falls Water from servicing these people from expansion if the city never has any intent to annex any of that, right? So that's kind of where that rests, I guess, is we were just looking for an answer to say, okay, how are we gonna handle this? Does the city want to still be able to run their line and just basically agree to service these properties so that it can loop into their connection up here and still not annex them? Or do we need to try to work something out on that MOU to where Falls Water can service those properties?
Austin, maybe you or Roger knows, was Tiffany's in the city or was it county? Before McNeil?
Charlie's?
No, Tiffany's. West Broadway.
The salvage yard.
Broadway. Broadway,
Over there where
Utah, where,
Hanson's bought it.
where McNeil
Yeah,
roundabout and the
Probably was in the
that-
county at the
was that
time and
city?
then annexed into the city.
after Rolling switched Tiffany properties and moved
I'd
them
have
off
to-
and
I'd
turned it
have
into
to
something
go
beautiful,
look,
then the city
but-
annexed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And like I say, the city could annex it, I think. It's just that
we
then
just need
for
a
all of those
developer that'll
people
move
that,
all those
for all those people who run out there, it puts them in a non-conforming status, so you can't expand any of those uses. So then the question is, where do all those salvage yards go? Do you have to try to relocate them?
We have to revise code to allow.
So that was just my question, is how do we handle this? It's kind of another one of those weird.
Yeah.
Little gap scenarios where there's Falls Water, there's City of Idaho Falls, you've annexed some properties, and I guess my thinking is, well. The city doesn't have any interest in having the salvage yards annexed. I mean, you've already annexed basically to the south side of them, and you've got Intermountain Packing on the north, so it's not really stopping the city from going anywhere, right? It's just this.
And they don't
area
have a water
question.
line in front of that property anyway, right?
Not right now, no.
So what about the area of impact out in this area too? I mean, those salvage yards are within the area of impact, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we'd have to address it on the zoning side for the conformity. On the utilities. I'll have to get Chris's input.
Yeah, so that's just my question. Like I say, I don't think we have any objection to saying, hey, these need to stay in the county because the city can't address them in their zoning ordinance, right?
Yeah.
We just wanna know, well, if that's the case, well, then can we do an out of service agreement that allows you to run your line and loop it? And service those properties, or do we need to amend the MOU with Falls Water and let them come across the road?
Yeah. Let me get back to you on that.
That's fine. I just wanted to bring it up so you were
No, that's great. This is good. Excellent.
aware of.
see, Lance brings up another point that I think Austin's had input on is in the area of impact, you know, we need to consider areas that are reasonably can be annexed by the city of Idaho Falls. And not, because we've got several of them that are just never gonna be annexed. You know, we've always felt like those should be cleaned up, and this is possibly one of them.
So it's just, I think it's a good exercise to talk about as we're working through the area of impact, because I think these are a lot of the things that are gonna come up
Yeah.
that have already been coming up, you know, so if we can sit with Chris and say, okay, how do we look at these? How do we handle these? I think it gives us a pretty good idea of how we need to address these properties in the area of impact, so.
Yeah, we should talk about this in the next meeting. Yeah, I'll bring it up with Chris.
Okay.
No problem.
okay.
That's all that I have for him.
Anything else?
And one thing I wanted to kind of
Holding about testicles.
just talk.
Go ahead.
To the transfer station.
Good. We've got one member of our public here. Did you have anything?
No.
Okay,
So
glad you're here.
we did take some test holes. David reminded me, and we did take some test holes on that property by the transfer station. Close up on the north side, 3 foot to rock. Halfway down was about 6 foot to rock. Down by Environmental Way they got down 12 foot.
So you could just drive some posts.
No, this is on where you're talking about the fuel storage tanks.
That's this property right here, right?
Not a very deep tank.
So and near Environmental Way, it's close to deep enough before you'd hit rock that you could actually maybe get close. I mean, they went down 12 feet, but again, halfway up was 6. Close to the top was only 3 foot to rock.
Close to the top where the trees are or above
Yeah.
the trees.
Close to where the trees
I
are.
talked to you the other day. This is just all exploring, because we have no idea what the city's gonna propose on changing that. You know, but I mean, we've got some concerns, about the emergency storage, making sure we've always got that. I know that's what Commissioner Reed has talked about, you know, because if you have a disruption, originally when we put that together, it was to try to keep the bottom half full. And then, basically
I think we had talked, the gatekeeper on that would probably be, our emergency manager, because if there's that much of a disaster, you're gonna have to pretty much provide that fuel for emergency services only and streets, roads, things like that. And I'm not sure that's addressed very clearly in there. But then with the growth of, because the city's usage is growing a lot faster, because they've got false fiber and things like that. Now they're suggesting that we change the MOU to include gift, which is a sub-government. I'm not sure how that would work, but you're basically getting a lot of that capacity up there. Whether we want to kind of be in control of our own destiny in case of an emergency. And, maybe if you could visit with Joe Browning, one of us can get you his cell phone number. And because the thing I was interested in when he was explaining it is the software. And it's a cost. But what it does is it keeps track of everything by the key fob and fires it to you it keeps track of all the maintenance, what maintenance is needed, mileages, things like that. So you get those reports and everything is computerized. So, when I send you that copy of the Excel, that just comes off that, and then that takes care of the issue where we want to divide them up and budgeting and everything. Can you find out a little more about that software? Just so you can see what that was.
If you give me the information there,
I can send you the breakdown too of everything he sent over, which has his phone number on it. I'll just forward it to you.
If it's a problem, couldn't we go above ground fuel storage?
You can, but
there's some other issues with above ground fuel storage tanks.
yeah, the 12-foot.
The EU EPA has some, you have to have enough storage around it to essentially, if there's a break in it, there's enough concrete storage that stores all of it above ground. And so you're talking just.
Probably.
Yeah, so
Because we don't have that.
But
Like 30,000.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
exceptions for ag.
Well, and then, based on usage,
The city.
I think on the diesel side of it, probably still want changes, so we got on the gas side.
The city get 1,000.
Well, and you can do split tanks too, where you can have part of that, part of one tank with diesel and stuff.
That's where it would be nice for you to talk to him. You understand them, that's just so we is be prepared with the feasibility of it versus the cost.
Hanson's put that fuel depot together down by Sunnyside Road, and there's a lot of overhead.
So, yeah,
Above
just
ground
that.
tanks out there.
I remember all that.
Yeah, you were right in the middle of that.
That's what I experienced in Christian, like cited Kirk. When he was trying to get us to go from all those exceptions, which we couldn't, because they had to have fires, breaks and everything.
I just was asking Wade too, from the city perspective, since that property is in the city, if there'd be any permits or anything required from the city, so he's gonna check on that for us.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I just think that the city and the county have grown so much since you did that original fuel depot that we need more, we both need more.
In fact, I saw in the fire meeting minutes the other day when I was looking through that the city of Ammon's looking to do their own too, just because of the increased
Are they?
need, yeah.
Well, look at the world situation. I mean, if this fuel, they could cut our.
On the question of permits, when we built the jail. And it was kind of a bit of a tense spot. I mean, the city charged us to get that and everything, which exchange. And when they did the garden, there was a water access that we were required, to pay the hookup fee for and everything just for the garden. But we won't need that water in large. We got that covered. other than that, I don't think. we're
Yeah, I
required.
just told him we'd basically be doing a couple underground tanks and like 4 or 5 pumps is all, so.
After.
Yeah, we just had someone join us online, Bob Sterling. Did you have any questions or any business you wanted to take care of in our road and bridge meeting?
Yes, sir. First of all, I was held up in another meeting, so I apologize I'm late. I would just wanted to see if you have already discussed the storage condo agenda item, or if that is still on the agenda.
Yes, we did that and it was adopted for the vacation.
Okay,
That was taken care of, and they'll be getting you a copy.
okay,
Your attorney.
very good. So you,
Yeah, that's right. Your attorney, Kate.
Kate.
Peterson.
Peterson was online and heard the discussion.
okay, well, very good. I was on another meeting that took a lot longer than expected, so I appreciate you taking care of that. Thank you.
You bet. Is there anything else we need to take care
Just a brainstorming session, which we can go do that.
of? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the meeting.